In this video, we're gonna compare some of the most popular compact macro photography flashes, and I'm gonna test the things I care a lot about, like how strong is the flash, how consistent is the output between frames, and of course, how well can it handle fast focus stacking. And the flashes I'm gonna compare in this video is the Godox V350, as well as its brother or sister, the TT350. And I'm gonna stack these against my old favorite, the Meike MK320, as well as the predecessor, the Meike MK310. And we're gonna see what flash give you the best bang for your bucks. And I'm gonna get into the testing in a moment, but first I just wanna address the Godox V350 and my opinion about it. As you might know, about a year ago I bought my first Godox V350 and I was very disappointed with this flash. I could not get consistent results. I always got like 20% black frames. Missed a couple of really good shots there thanks to the flash, which is completely unacceptable if you're doing macro photography. And even at low strengths like 132 I still got black frames, so I never really liked the V350. But I got a lot of comments from many macro photographers that they use the V350 and they don't have these problems with black frames. So the other day I finally said, let's just order another V350 to see if I have the same problem with a second unit. And I quickly tested the new V350 yesterday, and yeah, it worked a lot better. I did not have these issues with black frames. So yeah, my review that I did a year ago, I probably had a faulty unit. So be aware of this. The V350 is a good flash for macro photography, but if you are unlucky, you can get a bad unit that gives you black frames. And in that case, I would probably contact Godox and ask them to replace it with a working unit. So let's get into the actual testing of these flashes. I'm gonna begin with the V350 that I just talked about. This is a very popular flash, especially among Olympus users. And basically it is a compact modern flash with a proprietary lithium battery. When you buy the flash, you also get a charger with it for this battery. And you can also buy pirated versions of this battery if you don't want to buy another one from Godox. And I think this flash is popular because it is compact, it is pretty small, and it is easy to use, and it has good performance, supposedly. This flash is still pretty tall though, at least compared to the Meike MK320, as you can see here. So that I would say is a downside with this flash. Another downside is that it has a pretty hefty price tag of around $200 US. So it is not the cheapest flash in this test. Actually, it is the most expensive one. But anyways, let's see how it performs. I did all the testing on this OM1 camera with the Olympus 60mm lens, and I used a Pope shield for diffusion, and I used the flash in manual mode at 1/16 in strength. And here I am trying the V350, and it actually worked great. I could take up to 10 frames without interruption very fast, and as you can see here, the exposures are very even, very nice. Solid performance. So let's test the TT350 from Godox. As you can see, it looks very, very similar to the V350. However, the TT350 is slightly smaller. It is slightly shorter and slightly more compact in general. And the main difference between these two flashes, except the size difference, is that the TT350 takes two AA batteries. So you don't have this proprietary lithium battery, you have to provide your own batteries. And for this test, I'm gonna use the GP Photo Flash batteries that I think are the best batteries you can get. At least it is the best batteries I have tried. The TT350 is also a lot cheaper than the V350. You can get the TT350 for around $100 new, and the V350 costs $200. I used newly charged batteries for every test in this video. to make it fair. And again, I'm using 1/16 in strength here on manual mode. And what I noticed is that the flash can only handle 2 to 4 frames at a time at 1/16, and then it will have to take a break. So it is not as powerful or as fast as the V350, but the frames are very even in exposure, so that's nice. And if you're okay with only using 132 in strength, you can do 10 frames at a time. So the flash can be fast at lower strengths. And now it's time to test my old favorite that I've been using for years now for macro photography, the Meike MK320. The reason I love this flash so much is that it is extremely compact, as you can see. It is the smallest flash I've used that still gives adequate light output for macro photography. And it's also very cheap. It's around $70 new, so definitely one of the cheapest flashes you can get. There are some downside though with this flash. One problem I had when I'm doing focus stacks on my new OM1 camera is that the light output is pretty uneven, and that makes it hard sometimes for the camera to put together an automated focus stack. That is actually why I started looking at other flashes. Another problem with this one is that there are a lot of issues when I try to use this flash on Fujifilm cameras. I've tried it on several Fujifilm cameras, and more than once I've had severe issues with this flash. Basically, on some Fujifilm cameras you have to restart this flash all the time for it to work, and that is very frustrating. But I would say that the most powerful feature of this flash is the very, very low profile. It's great for macro photography because then you get the light close to the lens and it's easier for it to go via the diffuser and bounce down on your subject. My Meike flashes are for Canon and for Fujifilm, so they are not completely compatible with Olympus, so I had to set a manual delay between the shots. First I tried with 0.1 seconds in delay between the shots, and as you can see here, you get a lower and lower exposure for each frame, and that is not good. And 0.1 seconds is the same delay as you would see on the Godox flashes, so it is a fair test. Before we wrap up this test and come to the conclusion, let's also try my old Meike MK310. This is basically just an older version of the Meike MK320. It is pretty similar in its features, but one problem with this flash that made me switch it to the Meike MK320 is that it goes into sleep mode like all the time. So you very often miss a shot because the flash has gone to sleep and you forgot to turn it on again, and it will not automatically turn on from sleep mode unless you press a button on the flash. The Meike MK320 also goes to sleep sometimes, but it automatically wakes up when you take a new photo. I'm actually not sure if this flash is even sold anymore. It is probably pretty old by now, but I had it laying around and it is in the same size category as the rest of the flashes, so I figured why not try it as well. But as you can see here, the results are very similar to the results with the Meike MK320, and that means that they are not that great. Alright, I think we have a clear winner in this test, at least if you don't care about the price, and that is the Godox V350. It is the only flash in this test that could take 10 even nice exposures very quickly. No other flash could really do that. The TT350 is also a very good option, but you cannot take 10 very fast exposure at 1/16, then you would have to decrease the strength of the flash to 132, and then it works pretty nice. The Meike flashes are very quick and have nice output, but the big problem with them is that they have uneven output. So yeah, when you take a very fast series, they get weaker and weaker and weaker, and you get uneven exposures. And the Meike flashes work pretty nicely when you set time between the exposures of like 0.2 seconds. But then they are pretty slow. That is not fast enough to do a fast focus stack on a live insect. So if you're planning to do any kind of focus stacking, I would strongly recommend you to get one of the two Godox flashes. If you want the very best, get the V350. Be aware though that their quality control does not seem to be that great. But if you do get a good unit, the V350 is really good, and the TT350 is okay but not as powerful or fast. And if you're not planning to do that much focus stacking, or if you're only gonna do like manual stacks where you push the shutter yourself, you're fine with either flash in this test. And if you're a beginner on a budget, I can warmly recommend the Meike MK320. $70, very low profile, great value for money. I used it my first 6 years as a macro photographer, and I've been really happy with this flash. So it's a great option if you're on a budget. But please be aware that the Meike MK320 has issues with some Fujifilm cameras, so I would not recommend it to Fujifilm shooters. If you wonder why I don't recommend ring flashes for macro photography, you can have a look at this video where I talk a little bit more about that. See you soon again, and do subscribe if you like macro photography.